Okay, welcome to this SonicWall webinar on Capture Security Center. I'm Alex Michael, one of the SEs here at SonicWall, and we are running this webinar with NetThreat to bring to you the new and delightful features of the Capture Security Center. Okay, so yeah, any questions? By all means, leave at the end, and we will address those issues then. Okay, so what is Capture Security Center? So Capture Security Center is the culmination of all aspects of SonicWall that are online. For all SonicWall veterans, you will be familiar with My SonicWall, where you register and license your tech and make sure you can get the documentation and the firmware and so on. But since then, and as you would expect, we've steadily increased the options that are available and the services that are available. So the Capture Cloud platform comprises is multifaceted, and we will be going through a demo later on just to give you an idea of some of those features. But the Capture Cloud platform essentially is management of our technology, specifically at the moment firewalls and wireless. Being able to manage your endpoint AV in the Capture client, and in the future you'll be able to have access to your hosted email technology, as well as our cloud offerings. Okay, so what's the value of Capture Security Center as opposed to what there is prior to its existence? So having a portal with what we call a single pane of glass, where everything is there under one screen, will obviously make access easier. It means that you can access all your devices and manage your devices from one location. You no longer have the need to remember the individual passwords, username and passwords for each of your firewalls. You know, hypothetically speaking, let's say you have 5 firewalls. If all of those firewalls are entered into the Capture Security Center, you no longer need to jump on them individually, and you can do it from there with just your one login. You can use your My SonicWall login, and that allows for an efficiency in your management. Depending on the tier of security center that you have, there is you can automate your workflows. This means that you can schedule your configurations to your firewalls, and in the future your wireless and other tech, and you can set your approval groups, and I'll point this out later on as we're going through the demo. And it means, and you can also do your zero-touch functionality, where you just get your SonicWall, you send them out to your remote locations, and they connect to the internet, and they call home, and they automatically add themselves into your single pane of glass. Reporting, so you can have all your security alerts on the dashboard. Maybe you're the sort of organization that likes to have your information represented on a dashboard in a sort of security security center. Have a big screen up on the wall with all the devices. Maybe you need to make sure that the minute they go down or the minute something's not reachable, you need to jump on it. so real-time visibility, that's something that you can do with the Capture Security Center. And there's also some real-time reporting in the form of analytics, and I'll definitely show you some of that, and other reporting features. Okay. And as we say, it's all a single pane of glass. So again, ease of access and efficiency of access. So the Capture Threat Network itself, where has all this data come from? So the Capture Threat Network has existed for a long time, ever since the inception of SonicWall. So the intelligence is shared. So this is where all of your AV signatures. So if you have SonicWall with AV enabled on an IPS, that's where all of your signatures are created. We have over 1 million sensors. So those are the sensors that are gathering the data worldwide. These are being monitored 24/7, and it means we're able to provide defense against zero-day vulnerability. Zero-day being the viruses, the ransomware that's just been created. For any of you listeners or viewers who who have seen previous webinars that I've done for NetThreat, there's been some about our Capture Security Center, our Capture Sandbox, where we detonate files and find any threats that are live, which means that you can have protection against those vulnerabilities. And as you can see there, 140,000 plus malware samples collected daily. This is, it's of no, so it shouldn't be surprise of anyone to know that the number of malwares that we're collecting daily is increasing. And I will show you the threat center via the security center shortly, where you can see that for yourselves. Okay. Good. So that's what it looks like. And again, we're getting to the demo. The security operations center in a box. I'm not a big fan of the statement myself, but it means it's a contained management of your technology. So with this, the Capture Security Center was live in June of this year, 2018, of where you were able to manage your files, to do your analytics, manage your Capture client. As you can imagine, I had access to this a bit sooner as a member of the security engineers team. So I was able to beta test it. So I'm also managing my Capture client trials, my lab trials, and you also have access to my SonicWall, as I mentioned, and the licensing. And then we had our threat meters added. You can see the threat meter button there at the top of the window. And so what we've got in the future coming up, so just next month, we will have personalized threat meters. That's very exciting. So any devices that you have added to the firewall, we will provide you with personalized threat meters for those devices to give you a holistic view of what's going on. Cloud application security, or CAS, also features something that you hear a lot of recently. Shadow IT and the threats from Shadow IT and the risks of Shadow IT. The sort of traffic that we let plow through our networks with. Unless something actually bad happens, it's an idea to keep a check on this, and that's what CAS provides there. So you'll be able to see that traffic going through your network. And what do we have in the future after that? Well, lots of exciting stuff going on. We're going to have a unified dashboard. We're going to be adding of those devices. I mentioned already the wireless. You'll be able to, soon our access points which are currently only controlled by our firewalls, you'll be able to control them from the Capture Security Center. So no need to have a firewall to control them. You put your wireless in, they call home to the Capture Security Center, and you manage them, deploy them, and so on. So the unified dashboard will provide management of those, the email security, the secure mobile access technology, if that's something that you're familiar with. Again, if there's any questions on any of these technologies, by all means get in touch with NetThreat, and we'll be happy to go through and maybe even provide a demo on those. And yeah, there'll be more mobile management. So through the Capture client, there will be the ability to be a bit more granular in the management of the endpoint. Okay. All right. So the data, we say cloud, and at that point we like to think, okay, let's just assume it's everywhere. Here are some more data centers, two in Europe. So for our present audience, likely to be located to the European data centers. For anyone who's familiar with Capture sandboxing, you will know once you set it up on your firewalls that you have to pick a data center, so you actually have a choice. So when you access cloud.sonicwall.com, it'll be directed to European connectivity. Okay, and you can see there's two in the US and one over in Asia Pacific in Tokyo. All right, so just a little something. I added this slide as an afterthought for those who weren't aware. Status.sonicwall.com. You want to see all of our data centers and our services that we provide. Perhaps you're just using one of those features, and or you think that the Capture service is down, or this is where you go to check it. So not unlike a service provided by telcos, satellite TV providers and so on. So okay, so this is something that it's always good to have in your bookmark if you have a SonicWall estate. Need to know where everything is. Okay, so again, just to look at the early 2019, and now this is what we've got coming, this sort of detailed granular reporting, and I will go through the demo. There are similarities to what it is now, but the beauty of the Capture Security Center is that every time a change is made, it is done in the background. you log on one day, just like I have fairly recently, where I logged in and I noticed some changes. There was no need for me to upgrade. There was no need for me to re-add my devices. It was just there. Okay, so those are, but these are the sort of changes that you can expect to see in the future. So it's being tailored, and the changes are being tailored to make the management and the reactiveness to the issues that you're seeing is a lot easier, a lot more rapid. You can the time to fix, the time to actual configuration is lessened. Okay, so those just a few slides there, nothing too dramatic for us at the moment. So I'm just going to jump straight over to our demo. So again, cloud.sonicwall.com excuse me, cloud.sonicwall.com is where you go to, and you can go there now, and if you're an existing SonicWall customer, you log on with your My SonicWall credentials, and then you will get presented with this dash. Now obviously mine's a lot busier in all likelihood to yours if you've not used it before. I've got lots of lab devices, lots of demo devices and being added. So let's just have a quick look at of what we're seeing here. So this screen, once you log in with your cloud services, and if you enable the dual authenticator, you can have it. You can have extra layer of security. I won't log out to demonstrate that. I think we've all seen that before. You can create these tenants and groups. So this may be relevant to some and not all. Perhaps you've only got a handful of devices. So I've got a few containers here, just to demonstrate that really there's no products in each one. So it serves my purpose to have them all there. But I mean, if you have multiple sites, perhaps you want them in different groups. Just something that can tidy up your management, or perhaps you're managing firewalls for separate customers. That sort of environment. You can do that there. Okay, then within the cloud services bubble, you've got these buttons. For me, they're lit. For you, if you log in for the first time, they'll be grayed out until you add something, and I'll explain how you add these and make these light up in shortly. So initially, you'll have your My SonicWall and your licensing lit up. Analytics and CAS are linked. So when you enable the analytics trial, or if you buy it, those two will light up. Capture client is if you've invested in it, or again you've trialed your capture client. It's worth mentioning that all these features here, you can enable a 30-day trial. So you just go through that. You could trial all this now, should you wish, and that you can see for yourself. Okay, and then you obviously have your management, which is probably the most important part of this, and your reporting. The buttons I mentioned, so hosted email security and Wi-Fi. On an early release, there was a Wi-Fi button. It's been removed. Preparing for the final release of our Wi-Fi management. Being able to manage our access points. Perhaps you're a SonicWall customer who uses Wi-Fi there. We're expecting more buttons here, so watch this space. A little radio button here, which lets you almost like a shutter, so you can pull up and pull down, so you can jump in between these buttons. So if you do click on these, you can easily jump back into the screen. There's me as the logon, and there's always a help and getting started guide there at the top. Okay, so here's that threat meters button I mentioned. So this button, and I'll jump on there first. This button is available to you as via the website. So but the benefit of doing it through Capture Security Center is that it will very soon be tailored for your technology. So whether it's one firewall, 5 firewalls, or 20, you can see your data for your devices right there, and I'll explain how shortly. Okay, so I mean, that looks great. Anyone familiar with the 80s film War Games always makes me think of this. So lots of lines bouncing around. It looks like there's all sort of attacks going on, which is what they are. Thankfully, nothing too hostile. These are attacks that we are picking up on our SonicWall technology. So what we're looking at is each blip is a SonicWall is sensing an attack, whether it's a virus or intrusion detection, or if it's malware. You can see that you see some statistics there, so where they are all coming from, where the origins are. Maybe some surprises there for you that that there's the origins of France, Canada, and that's specifically for again, the SonicWalls that are catching them. Okay, so there's some information there, that you can look at in a glance. And you might be thinking, well, that's not relevant apart from looking pretty, where what's the value of that. There's a button here down here where you can look at some specific metrics. Now, the message that certainly my job that we have to get across, is the severity of the threat. And the threat comes in different forms. So you can see on the left there's malware, there's intrusions, there's ransomware. So these are metrics that we sent, and this data has been live for a while now. So we can look at over the same period from last year. These regions here, so this is worldwide, North America, Europe. You can see what the difference is, and the buttons change accordingly. So here we are in where are we in December? September 18 even, and we just got the September stats. Obviously we're coming out of October, those will appear soon, and then what's the plan is in the future, I mentioned tailored, you'll have a little button here, and that will be for your devices. So you can then jump onto these the threats here. So ransomware is always a good one. I mean, we're actually seeing a malware drop, despite what I just said, that there's currently a malware drop for that period. There's a lot of surprising information that comes from this. Ransomware is something I think is key to talk about. It's very destructive. It's the money that's made from ransomware is it's a phenomenal amount. Actually, in the last year, we actually saw a drop in ransomware, but the number of variants increased. And then this year in January, as our boffins were looking at this data before the security center went live, they noticed that all of a sudden that the ransomware was spiking up again. So there was a new method, there was new players. The background to these to these numbers. Well, first of all, there's a couple of things that you can do. The first is you can read our threat report that's available on our website. By all means, speak to NetThreat. They can help you source that information. And then the alternative. The threat report is twice a year. So we've just released our mid-year threat report. And so on. I've forgotten the second point now. I think the issue I was going to make was that you can look at the news. Here we go. So here on the button here we see here at SonicWall we upload a whole bunch of news, recent news stories about ransomware and what the latest latest attacks are, and how other vendors are dealing with it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I mean, it's quite a bit of reading, but it just gives you an idea of all the stuff that's going on. Just on that news front, something that going back to that ransomware a decrease. I mean, you can all make a guess of what the causes were. One of the factors was that there were a lot of arrests of the hackers, of players in the ransomware market even. They were rolling out the ransomware. So it was considered that was attributed to the decline. When those individuals and those groups were stopped. But again, a gap is left, and those are rapidly filled. So it just gives you an idea of the need to really be on those sort of threats. Another interesting one here is malware using HTTPS. Okay, yes, so there has been a drop since this time last year, but viruses getting over your internet connection, over your encrypted connection, it's a big deal. If you're not using encryption, the scanning of encrypted traffic, which is something that I've done another webinar for NetThreat in the past, using our DPI SSL, then quite frankly, you're leaving that traffic to get through your network. It's worth considering. Okay, so there's just a very high overview. Again, you can play with it on the website. By all means, jump onto the website. Jump onto your instance of cloud so you can see that. Okay, so to the next step, and we're gonna look at management. But before we do that, there's just a couple of points here, and again, the details are on the site. Of what you can actually add and what it costs and what the levels are. I mentioned tiers already. So off the bat, if you have any SonicWall firewalls, as long as they're Gen 6 and running 6.5, you can add your firewall to the Cloud Security Center today for free. Okay, the caveat is that the catch is coming shortly, but there's no reason why you can't manage all of your firewalls from here, as long as they're licensed and they have support and have the valid security license. You can't add them to this firewall. So the way that you do that is you log on to My SonicWall. When you find the licensing for your firewalls, I won't show it here. There's a few clicks away, and you'll find a little button under the licensing, and it's called Management Lite. If you enable Management Lite on your firewalls, however many you have, you could then add them to your management button here in the Security Center. So you'll be able to manage your firewalls from here. So that's great. What does that give? Well, it means, again, you can come from a single pane of glass and manage it all from there. So you don't have to remember the passwords. And essentially, you're browsing a cloud instance and saving you having to manage the individual firewalls by their IP addresses. So it's just stuff that you don't need to remember, really. And we will also back up your config just like you would on the firewall direct. Okay, so where it then becomes as a powerful tool is when you add those tiers afterwards. And again, you can enable these trials on My SonicWall for those individual firewalls. And the first tier is we call it management. So again, to add them for free, we call Management Lite, and there's a little button on there, and then you add management. So that's charged per node. Management will give you the ability to do workflows and approval groups. I've said that already, and also zero touch. So from at that point, you can then send your firewall out, and then you automatically add it to the Capture Security Center. The approval groups, and I'll just jump on and show you it. So if I just jump on my instance here, you'll note that I just hit the down click on the shutter there to go back to that screen, and I can do that again here. So while that's loading up, the approval groups, the scenario might be that there's a handful of techies that look after this stuff, and you have a senior guy, maybe the boffins behind the outfit, and so the other engineers are making changes, but maybe their confidence is not what it should be, and they make changes just under this console button here, but then it doesn't get applied to the firewall. So then the approver, which is set under workflow here under the console button, the approval, which is where you designate it based on username who the expert is, I guess. They could say, right, I see what you're trying to do, I approve it, I'm schedule this change for tonight, and then you can roll that out to all your firewalls. So if you've got 20 firewalls, one thing you can't do with Management Lite is configure them all at the same time. Okay, and here's where the change orders appear. So you have a list saying perhaps user A wants to block Facebook on 50 firewalls or 20 firewalls or whatever. Do you approve this? You click on that and then you hit yes, and then you can schedule them. All right, and amongst other things on this console is the various settings for the management, based on users and schedules and message of the day and so on. Okay, so this is a very high level talk, so we'll just skim through this. Okay, so that's the management tier. The next tier is management and reporting, and if we just park that to the side for now, we'll go into the reporting next. But just give you an idea of the management firewall. If you're familiar with managing a SonicWall, you'll know this sort of typical setup where you've got the options on the left, and then when you click on one, let's select management, and then the options are on the right, and then it looks similar. There's different. The buttons look different. The colors are slightly different. The user interface essentially, but all the options that you can do directly in the firewall are available here. So the firewalls that I've added are here on the left. So I've got a couple of devices that are up, a couple of TZ400s. I also have a 3650, but that's off at the moment. It sits above me. The fan can be a little noisy, so I've decided to not have that on. Okay, so but I mean, once you've added your Management Lite or your management or whatever, here is where you add your devices. So yes, you do have to, if you're not using zero touch, you do have to configure some settings. It's fairly straightforward. You just go to the admin and you specify cloud.sonicwall.com and the username and password. But yeah, if you expand it, there's your device, and then you can add it manually from here. All right, so I mean, if you've got 4 or 5 files, then you'd have to do that for each one of them if they're already out in the field. Okay, so that's management. Just not to click on all of them, but something common on all files. If you click on access rules, you'll see a familiar screen once it comes up, and there's your access rules, and again, that will look familiar to what you're used to seeing on the firewall. Okay, so I pull the little shutter button down, jump back down, and then I jump onto reporting. So with reporting, so that's the tier after management. So that's management reporting. So that includes, so if you buy a management and reporting license for your firewall, so you get all that management stuff that I've mentioned, and then also you get reporting. So this is the data. The firewall then send all the IP fixed data to the Capture Cloud. So this is available for the TZ and the NSA ranges currently, and we take that data when you can then sort of cycle through it and look there. So there's a 90-day retention, although there is the availability to increase that is coming. Increase the amount even. And that means that you can sort of use this slide bar and jump. So I'm just going to jump 7 days in the past, and just on this dashboard, you saw that sort of that slide that showed earlier of what it's going to look like. Currently, it's like this. So here's the world view of everything, and you can see all the countries where those connections came from in the last 7 days from that one firewall, of which I have 2 devices sat behind it. I've had a couple of intrusions there, so at a glance, I mean, if you tie in your firewall with Active Directory, you could see your usernames there, but at a glance, you can have an idea of what's going on. Okay, and then you can sort of drill down in detail. Okay, that's just the dashboard. The live monitor is something you get on your firewall. You'll be familiar with that. That's just the live traffic as it's going through it. Again, stuff that you can see that bit you can see on the firewall on the live monitor of the monitors page. All right, so then you click on applications. I always sort of start off with this one. It's a given. If you've got a SonicWall firewall, that you should have application control and application visibility on. Arguably the most powerful part of a firewall that's that's a UTM firewall is that being able to see what the applications are. So here I can see all the applications I'm using. So nothing too dramatic there. But if there's something that does worry you, you sort of drill down in detail, and then I'll show you in reporting how you can configure the rules. So if I see a lot of HTTP and IceCast, whatever that is, I can click on the little button here, and then I can configure those rules. And once I hit create, I will fire that rule out to the to that TZ there. Okay, and then you can see there's all sorts of stuff there. You can have some reporting on the virus. So this, and again, the fact that it's retained for 90 days still goes all the way back. Okay, to when you need it. Okay, so if you click on the report button itself, and I know that was just home, and then you could see a better reflection of what's going on. So rather than just taking a holistic view, you can actually drill down individually, and you can see some activity based on connections here. Well, off the default, it's connections, but if you want to set it to I don't know, data received, let's say, then it will change the graph to data received. And then okay, look, so we're looking at 90 days worth, but I can then drill down. So if I just want to look at October, I can sort of drag and slide. So let's have a look at the 20th. There's me working at sort of lunchtime by the looks of things, and then stopping at midnight and so on. And I can see the applications load time. And again, if there's any applications that I've done during that time, I can then do it accordingly. I'm not sure what March Madness is. Saw something there that intrigued me. Okay, so there's a bit of Netflix there. Not a lot, just an idle connection from one of my machines. But yeah, again, if I see a number of connections of viruses, I can always go ahead and block it from there. And yeah, there's lots that you can drill down. So again, fire up the trial, have a play. It's very useful. Okay, so that's the reporting and management license. And again, you can have a trial. The next up is the analytics button. So the analytics is slightly different, and there is some overlap. For anyone who's familiar with our analyzer product, there's some overlap with that, and we're close to release of analytics version 2, where it's going to be changed. So this is the real-time aspect of your data. Now, analytics, you do not need the previous tiers. Analytics you could get as a standalone. So you don't want to manage your files. You could just get analytics, and that's where you get your detailed data. One of the nice things about it is you can have a look at the network topology. So that's that particular network for that firewall. It's fairly straightforward. You can see I've just got a couple of interfaces, and there's my router, and I'm doing some NAT there. But at that point, you can see some really fancy graphs of connectivity. Again, there's your slide button. You'll be familiar with this screen from the reporting. That's the overlap that I mentioned. But also you can have a look at some graphs from here. So in the last 5 minutes, I've got 2 machines sat behind this firewall. Most of the connections are DNS. Okay, so there's the number of sessions, 82, as you'd expect, I suppose. There's some encrypted traffic. There's some Googling there, and some Dropbox running idle in the background. and just a couple of other tools there, including my personal email account, which is running on a separate window here. That wouldn't be up there if I didn't enable my IMAP client. But again, drag it open, have a look there, and I mean, it's debatable whether this information will be useful to you. I think that's fair to say, but it's this goes to show the power of the tool, and then what you can then do, you can then sort of output the report. And download these things. I mean, personally, I find the session log more useful, where you can manage the applications directly. I mean, I think this bar graph works better than the line graph, and this is changing all the time. So this is based on feedback. So we're always looking to take feedback from our customers, so we can decide what to roll out here. Okay, so that's analytics, very high level, and yeah, again, it's another thing that you can enable the trial for. All right, good. Capture client. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, the Capture client is our new endpoint, or relatively new, I should say. So anyone who's familiar with SonicWall endpoint client, we had a partnership with McAfee. We rolled out a signature-based AV, which was managed via the firewall on my SonicWall. So this has now changed. We're now in partnership with SentinelOne, which is a next-gen AV. So the next-gen AV is an aspect of the Capture client. So the Capture client is Windows and Mac, and you can roll it out and install it on those endpoints, and then the idea is that from this portal you can monitor and manage to a certain extent those clients, and have visibility on all your endpoints. So if you're a company with 50 endpoints and they all have Capture client installed, you can see all the threats that they've been subjected to. SentinelOne being a next gen AV means that it has the power to it doesn't need signatures to look at viruses, so the efficiency is improved, the efficacy is improved, I should say, and what it means is we will we'll look at the viruses on process. So it's that layer of protection that even if you have a firewall, but it's still functional if they're on site behind a firewall. But if they're away, maybe they're at home, maybe they're in a hotel where there isn't a firewall protecting them, perhaps the Capture client can do that work for them. All right, so just a little bit about my instance here. So I've got a couple of online clients here. One is this laptop. So just to show you what it looks like on this laptop. Excuse me. So there's my client there. It's active. The policy, it's licensed. What I haven't mentioned yet is that for every edition of the Capture client, there is a certificate feature. And so what that means is that if you are doing DPI SSL, and again, it's something that I've gone over plenty of times on previous webinars, it will find the firewall, you register the firewall with it, and then the firewall will share the certificate to the Capture client, which will then deploy it into your browser. So that simplifies the need of looking at encrypted traffic. Okay. Good. So and obviously there's other features that the user can see here. The status of it, if it's healthy, which policy it is. If they're not an admin, then if they're an admin, obviously they can hit update policy if change is made, although that is farmed out to them. Another nice feature that is that we've just enabled Capture ATP, so the sandboxing side is also on the client. So now we will detonate files for you on the endpoint if needed. All right, so I'm just going to reduce this little pop-up here. So so you're probably wondering how do you deploy it? Well, again, there's a 30-day trial. So if you enable the 30-day trial, you log onto cloud, the button lights up. If you jump on management, you have the client installers here. Now, yes, you could, if you got a large deployment, you might want to do that with group policy or something like that. Or there is also firewall enforcement, which is quite nice, whereby if you enable it, the clients will try to connect via the firewall on site, and then it will redirect them, and it won't let them go any further until they install the client. Okay, so that's the enforcement feature. But here you have the different versions. Obviously, it makes sense to have the latest version, 1.5.7, Windows and Mac. And then you install it, and then when you download this, it will be unique to this instance. So once you install it, you'll then lose one of those licenses, or one of those licenses will be active. Okay. So just to go through the analytics side, again, there's our slide bar. I know I've had some virus. There we go. So I've had some viruses in the past. This one was a false positive, just some game that wasn't what it was. And there's a an actual virus. I can't remember what I did to download that, but that was blocked and killed and quarantined, and that was Sentinel-1 doing that. So that wasn't again a signature-based attack. That was a that was the on-process scanning or the pre-process even. There's some logs there, as you expect, so you can see all users there. So you can make sure that all the users are logged on, and make sure, and you can keep an eye on them as the admin. All right. So again, username. So these are the people that have access to my instance. Okay, it's just me. Probably more relevant is the devices, and these are the devices I got deployed on. So there's a machine on my right. That's this one here, and this is my laptop here. So they're both cooled on. They're healthy. They're up to date. There are things you could do here with that laptop. So from here, I can enable a scan. Again, we can do a scan, but if you're an on-process AV, it's sort of, perhaps it's not necessarily. When you first install it, it does do a scan, but yeah, arguably you wouldn't need to do that. So debug logs, if you need to open a support ticket, you can update the policy, and I'll show you where the policy is. The password, if you want to manually unload, but manually uninstall even. But yeah, you can decommission and uninstall the client from the cloud as well. So if something gets stolen, you can decommission it and then retrieve your license and roll it out to the replacement laptop. But at the moment, you can shut down the device and reboot the device. Now that may or may not be useful to you. What's coming soon is the ability to manage, to block and enable USB ports. So I think we all can agree that can be useful, not just on the removing the ability of people using memory sticks and bringing them past through the perimeter of the firewall and then bringing in viruses that way, but at the same time it means that you can stop people from putting data on memory sticks. So there's a data leakage aspect to it. So that's coming soon, the USB management, and there's lots of ways that we're improving this the capture client. Okay, so policy management. Now, again, you can have different policies for different users. Quite frankly, off the way that it's set by default, the features that it's scanning, the antivirus side of it's fairly efficient. There's the enforcement firewall that I mentioned there. So if I click that box, and that serial number will make sure that it's shared certificate. Okay, so so here's the threat protection side. So if I look at the threat protection policy. Okay, so again, it's on. Those are the protection modes, and you can tell it how to behave. I actually don't play with it that much, and a lot of my customers don't either. So this is what it's looking for, and there's some explanations here if you click on it. Lateral movement, intrusion detection, and so on. So there might be stuff that you want to switch off because there's legitimate traffic. You can add it as a false, as on the whitelist or an exclusion. And then get around that, or you could fiddle with the engine settings, and that will farm it out to all the endpoints you have out there. Okay, there's the certificate side of it for your DPI SSL. By all means, get that done. If you're not using DPI SSL, I know it's a challenge, and I've said this. We say this, and the same with all vendors. There are aspects that will be difficult, but DPI SSL, the 70% of your internet traffic is encrypted. You have to consider it and make sure that you're looking at that encrypted traffic if you can. Okay. What else we got here? So again, just the exclusions and the various blacklists. So you can set up a blacklist for, and these were added to the by Sentinel-1 who have put these in there. All right. And again, so if there's a new version of the client, it'll be made available, and then you'll have a new client installer. But if you've got the client installed already, it will auto update. So expect to see new features. One bit I haven't mentioned yet is the rollback functionality. So currently, only on Windows, not on Mac, there is also a rollback functionality. Now that comes with the capture client comes in two tiers. There's the basic tier, which is the antivirus, the certificate management, and then the advanced tier is the sandboxing and rollback. So rollback will should your machine still get compromised or something happen to it, you can actually set you can actually roll back your device to the last known good configuration. So you can get it back to a state when it wasn't affected by the ransomware or however that works. So yeah, again, not on the Mac just yet, but that's coming soon. Okay, so that's just a very high level view. What I would suggest is that you go ahead and play with it. Again, there's your little button there to help you to sort of navigate around. The beauty of the trial for the capture client is that you don't have to remove your existing signature-based AV. I haven't actually come across one where they actually conflict and they stop installing. So I have definitely on my machine right. I have a couple of free signature-based, a signature free-based AV like Avast or AVG running, and then I just sit my capture client on top of it. So you've got added security that way. But I think the message here is signature-based antivirus is no longer fit for purpose. It's far too vulnerable, and it very much is very much the case that a next gen AV, something that does on process scanning, like SentinelOne, is the way forward. It's just that peace of mind, that extra security, and the benefit of being able to manage it from a single pane of glass. Is invaluable, I would suggest. Okay, so that's it for today. I mean, it's a very high level view. We've gone on for about 40 minutes, I guess. That should be enough. The guys at NetThreat will be happy to take your calls, and if if there's an opportunity, perhaps you want to trial it. If you've got any questions, by all means, reach out. We can help out with that. I should probably quickly mention cloud application security. So this is available now, but it's at a very early phase. Just before I end this WebEx, I'll quickly just show you what that is. So that's the shadow IT aspect, and that will take the data from all your firewalls, all your technology, and give you a DEFCON rating on that traffic. As you can see, there's no data in my one, but should you have a lot of Facebook running, should you have a lot of Netflix coming across 10 different firewalls, we give you a DEFCON rating on those applications. So something like Dropbox, which has a mid-range rating because it can carry an infected payload, that's listed there. And so that's the cloud application. And as I already mentioned, that's available on when you get analytics license. Sorry, I've got stuck there. Couldn't find my button. Okay, so that wraps up the session. We will take questions. I'll pause the recording and take questions, and then yeah, like I say, if there's anything that you can't ask here, then do follow up and let us know. All right, thank you very much, and see you next time.